Ever get that feeling, like even if you're doing all right money-wise, that you're just stuck, on a treadmill,
Yeah.
working, paycheck, spend it, and then do it all again? Kind of makes you think about what Bill McKibben said, right?
Yeah.
About like, maybe it's time to get off that whole crazy race that's going nowhere and actually build a life that feels like living.
Absolutely. That sense of being on that treadmill all the time, always trading your hours for dollars just to get more stuff. I mean, it's super common.
Yeah.
And it's not just for people making a certain amount. Like, it doesn't discriminate. It makes you wonder, like, is there a better way, a more intentional way
Yeah.
to do this whole life thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. This idea, we're going deep into Your Money or Your Life, the book.
Yeah, so
By Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. You might know Vicki Robin. She wrote Blessing the Hands That Feed Us. She's kind of a big deal when it comes to thinking about, like, living sustainably. And this book, it's been like a guide for so many people who are, trying to figure out a new way to think about their money. And we're here to break it down, get to the good stuff for you.
I love that. And what's so cool about Your Money or Your Life is it's so direct. It goes right at this tension we all feel. We're always pushed to have more stuff, but then what does that do to us?
Yeah.
To how happy we are, and honestly to the planet. They connect those dots really well.
It's true. It's like our everyday choices, they have these ripple effects way bigger than we realize.
Totally.
But the book doesn't leave you feeling helpless. The message is, if you simplify your life, go for what makes you truly happy, chances are you'll lighten your footprint on the earth too.
It's true.
It's like this beautiful link between you feeling good and the planet feeling good.
Yeah. It challenges us to, like, rethink our whole role. We're not just consumers, using up, wasting, even destroying. There's got to be a way to live that actually matches what we care about, our purpose.
Right, right. Okay, let's talk about this illusion of more, this idea that's like, if we just had more money, then bam, we'd be happy, finally.
Right.
Like, so many of us just assume that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's super interesting to look at some of the stuff they found early on, like from these seminars they did.
Sure.
They asked people about their happiness.
Yeah.
All sorts of incomes, from under $1,500 a month to like over $6,000, and rated it on a scale of 1 to 5.
So like from kind of struggling to pretty comfortable, like
Right.
what they find. I'm guessing it wasn't just like more money, more happiness.
You got it.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the same across the board, like 2.6 to 2.8, no matter how much they were making.
Wow.
Barely above meh, right? And it really hits you. More money by itself doesn't equal more joy. It's like this big aha moment. Makes you think twice about chasing riches is the only way to be happy.
Huge wake-up call, right?
Yeah.
So even the people who are like, I'm doing okay money-wise, they weren't necessarily feeling that much better than anyone else.
Nope, not really. And the craziest part, when they asked, how much would it take to make you happy? Almost everyone said, more than I have now, like 50 to 100% more. It's this target that keeps moving.
Ugh, it's exhausting just thinking about it. Like, we're all in this hamster wheel, and then the book brings in this whole other layer, right? How all this wanting more stuff, it affects the planet, too.
Yeah, big time. They talk about this UN warning from back in '87.
Okay.
It basically said point blank that how much we consume the developed world, it's a major cause of damage to the environment globally. And the thing is, even with that warning, our lifestyles haven't changed much.
Right.
Except maybe now we just have fancier ways to buy things on a whim.
True. Makes you wonder, why are we stuck like this? Even when it's not making us happier and it's messing up the planet.
Yeah, it's a good question. And the book, it digs into this. They talk about how, especially in these industrialized countries, we've gone from being citizens to consumers. And when you look up consume, it's pretty harsh, right? To use up, to waste, to destroy.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you think.
Yeah. Like that's our role in society, to just use stuff up.
It's intense, right? But it forces you to think about what's really going on. They say consumerism, the way we know it, it's not that old.
Okay.
Like it's a 20th century thing. It started when industries realized, hey, we need people to want more and more stuff all the time for the economy to keep growing.
Interesting. So it wasn't always this like ingrained thing.
Not at all. Back in the early 1920s, after the whole Industrial Revolution, things actually slowed down because people felt like they had enough.
Makes sense.
Workers even wanted shorter work weeks so they'd have more time to enjoy life,
And I bet that didn't go over well with the folks in charge.
No, not one bit.
Yeah.
You had these moralists, the whole Protestant work ethic thing, they saw leisure as a bad thing. And then the industrialists, They freaked out because people weren't buying as much. They needed everyone to think that just having enough wasn't good enough. You always had to want the next new thing.
So it's a shift from needs to wants, basically. Okay, let's talk about this fulfillment curve and the whole clutter idea.
Yeah.
It says, at a certain point, more stuff actually makes you less happy.
That's the whole point of the fulfillment curve.
Yeah.
At first, yeah, getting more stuff makes you happier. It covers your needs, makes you feel secure, comfortable.
Right, right.
They talk about that feeling babies get, like when you feed them or change their diaper. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Everything's good now.
Totally. That feeling of like a real need being met.
Exactly. But then, once you get past those basic needs and you're buying stuff you don't really need, the link between more stuff and more happiness, it breaks down. Think about like your first car, first big trip, first apartment on your own. Each one was a thrill, but that excitement faded faster each time. And you probably paid more each time too, right?
Yeah, for sure. That new thing feeling, it doesn't last as long as you think it will.
Nope. And they say, we don't notice this happening because we've been told over and over, money equals happiness.
Right.
So we just keep getting more and more stuff. And that leads to what I call clutter.
Okay, but what does clutter mean here? It's not just about having a messy house, right? Oh.
It's anything extra for you.
Yeah.
Anything you own that doesn't really serve a purpose anymore, but it's taking up space. Could be physical space or even mental and emotional space.
So you could have like a super organized house,
Right.
but it's still full of clutter by their definition.
Totally. Could be spotless, but full of stuff you never use or even really like. And the opposite of clutter isn't like getting rid of everything. It's about getting to a point of enough.
What does enough feel like? Like, how do you know when you've hit it?
They describe it as this, like wide open space. You feel alert, creative, free. Having too much stuff, needing to store it, clean it, insure it, it can be way worse than having less.
Interesting. So it's not about hitting some magic number of possessions or being a minimalist.
Nope. Enough is different for everyone. It's not about denying yourself things you need or enjoy. It's about hitting that sweet spot like Goldilocks. Having just the right amount of everything you actually want and need, no more, no less.
I like that. Just rightness takes the pressure off. Okay, now this idea of life energy, the book talks about that a lot. It seems like a really big idea for them.
It's central. They're saying money isn't just numbers, it's your life energy. It's literally the hours of your life that you traded to get it.
Whoa, that changes things. Suddenly that coffee isn't just a few bucks, it's a chunk of your time.
Exactly. And to really see this, they want you to calculate your real hourly wage.
Okay.
Not just what your paycheck says. You got to factor in all the time you spend because of your job but don't get paid for. Commute, getting ready, even the time it takes to, like, decompress after a long day.
All those hidden costs of working.
Yes. And then the money you spend specifically for your job.
Yeah.
Work clothes, lunches near the office, maybe even that gym membership you only use because work stresses you out. They give this example. A $1,500 vacation to, like, recover from burnout.
Yeah.
Spread that cost over the year. It's like you're paying for it every week with your life energy.
That's kind of scary to think about. So if you add up all those things, your actual take-home pay per hour could be way less than you think.
For sure. And they even break it down further. In one scenario, they say every dollar you spend is like 6 minutes of your life.
Wow.
So when you're about to buy something, ask yourself, is this thing really worth 6 minutes of my life?
6 minutes $1. That adds up quick if you're not careful.
It does. There's this story in the book, this guy in the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. He doubled his hourly earnings just by being more mindful about his spending. Started packing his lunch, taking public transit, even rethought his whole work wardrobe.
Wow, so those little changes, they can really add up when you see them as life energy.
Big time.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have this checklist to help figure this all out.
What kinds of things are on it?
Stuff like, how much do you spend getting to work? And how long does it take? Work clothes, grooming, lunches out, even how long it takes you to chill out after work. It makes you really look at the total cost of your job, time, and money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about tying all this to our values and purpose.
Yeah.
It feels like the next step, right? You figure out your real hourly wage, and then you look at if you're spending that life energy on things that matter to you.
Exactly. Once you know what your time is really worth, you got to look at if you're actually getting fulfillment, if it matches your values.
Right.
So it's not just about spending less, it's about being really intentional with your life energy.
Right.
The book says, keep track of everything you spend, and then ask yourself these questions. Am I actually getting something out of this? Is it worth the time I spent earning this money? Does this match what I believe in? And how would I spend differently if I didn't have to work for money?
Those are some deep questions, man. Makes you think. You mentioned a purpose in life test. What's that all about?
It's one way to figure out your sense of purpose. Like, do you feel lost? Are you searching for meaning? Or do you have a clear purpose? The book says, look at your spending through that lens. It can help you see where you're spending life energy on things that don't really matter to you.
So, like, are your financial choices actually supporting your bigger goals?
Exactly. And when you track your spending every month and you ask those tough questions, you start to see how your money and your purpose connect or don't connect.
Yeah.
They say true integrity comes when what you do, your actions, match what you believe, your values.
Makes sense. If you're spending a ton of time earning money for things that don't line up with what you care about, something's going to feel off.
For sure.
The outline also mentioned a story about a guy named Hal N. and his office.
Oh, yeah, how he was an activist who got into financial planning.
Okay.
And he realized he had some blind spots when it came to money. The biggest one was his office. It was costing him $2,900 a month. And when he thought about it, he realized most of his work was remote. Clients never came to his office.
So much money, so much life energy going towards something that wasn't doing much for him.
Right. So he moved his office home, and his expenses went way down. It shows you when you ask those questions, you can find places where you're spending without even realizing it, and it's not even giving you much in return.
Totally. Okay, let's get into some practical stuff. What does the book say about saving money and changing how we consume?
One of the biggest things is stop trying to impress other people. They talk about this idea called conspicuous consumption from Thorstein Veblen.
Okay.
It's basically spending money just to show off for status. And they say it's a trap, it never ends, and it doesn't really make you happy.
Because there's always going to be someone with more or something newer,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And they make this great point. People are so busy trying to impress other people that they might not even notice what you're doing. Or even worse, they might just get annoyed that you're trying to one-up them.
So you can't win either way. What else do they say about saving?
Live within your means. Sounds simple, but it's key. Don't buy stuff you can't afford. Avoid debt if you can, and always have some savings for emergencies.
Yeah.
They really hammer home how much interest costs you. Like, buying something on credit, you could end up paying 2 or 3 times the original price.
Ouch. Those monthly payments, they can really sneak up on you.
For sure. They're not saying to ditch all your credit cards, but if you can't pay it off right away, don't use them. Stick to cash or debit if you can, so you really see what you're spending.
Good advice. So, avoid debt, track your spending. What about day-to-day saving tips, like how to make it a habit?
They have a bunch of good ones. Reusing things, being careful about holding on to stuff just because you've always had it, even if it's more trouble than it's worth. Plan ahead so you're not making last-minute purchases. Those are always more expensive. And do your research. Make sure you're getting good value and something that will last.
Yeah, that makes sense. A little bit of planning goes a long way.
Totally. They also say, don't be afraid to shop around. Look for sales, buy used, be resourceful. And maybe the most important one, find different ways to meet your needs. Do you actually need to buy that new gadget, or can you borrow it, rent it, or even just live without it?
Right. It all comes back to being mindful. The outline mentions something about like how our needs become whatever we want to buy on impulse.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Our idea of what we need can change so easily, especially with all the ads and stuff, making us want things. They have this checklist to help you spend more consciously. Stuff like, don't go shopping just to browse.
Right.
Live within your means and do your research before you buy anything.
Solid advice. Okay, let's switch gears a bit, talk about work and financial independence. This is a big part of the book, right?
Huge. They challenge how we think about work, especially now, when our jobs do so much more than just pay the bills. They point out that our jobs now fill roles that used to be handled by, like, religion or family. We get our identity, our purpose, our sense of belonging from them.
It's true. This job charming thing they talk about, it's so real. We expect our jobs to be everything. Like, it's not just about the paycheck.
Exactly. We want them to give us status, meaning, excitement, even friends, and respect.
Yeah.
But the book says the main purpose of a job is actually really simple, is to get money. And once you see that, it frees you up to value your time and look for the best pay you can get without compromising your health or your integrity.
So be clear about what work is for and don't expect it to be your whole life.
Right.
What do they say about making more money?
They have a few ideas. One is just having a good attitude at your current job, showing you care about your work, taking pride in it, that can lead to raises or promotions.
Okay.
Another is trying to make your job better, take on more responsibility, learn new skills.
Yeah,
And of course, there's always the option of finding a different job that pays more.
right.
They tell this story about Nina N. She really shows how to be proactive. She reached FI, and then she took this lower-paying job cleaning houses just to prove she could. Then she moved and started doing temp work. She kept track of her real hourly wage for every assignment, and pretty quickly, she doubled her income. But she didn't stop there. She used that temp experience to get a full-time job as an admin assistant at a hospital with benefits. That was another big pay bump.
It's like she knew her worth and wasn't afraid to go for it. Okay, let's talk about financial independence, FI. What's the big idea there?
It's about having enough money from your savings and investments to cover all your expenses without needing a job. They talk about this wall chart where you visually track the gap between your income and your spending. That gap is your savings.
So it's about building this financial base that can support you, and then you're free to spend your time how you want.
Exactly. That money you save, it starts making more money through investments. They use this example of a 4% safe withdrawal rate. So for every $100 you have invested, you could take out about $0.33 each month to live on without touching the original $100.
Okay. It might not seem like much at first, but it adds up as your savings grow.
Exactly. The goal is to reach this crossover point where the money your investments make equals or is even more than your expenses. There's this story in the book. This guy's investment income ended up being more than what he used to spend on junk he didn't need.
That's pretty awesome. But I bet it's scary for some people relying just on investment income.
Yeah, that's where the cash comes in. It's basically extra savings on top of what you need for your regular expenses.
Okay.
It's like a safety net, just in case. They tell this story about Rosemary the First. She built up this big cash, and it really calmed her nerves as she got closer to FI.
So you need both the money and the peace of mind. Does FI mean you never work again?
Not at all. They say you're still part of the economy. And the cool thing is, by always learning and improving your skills, you not only keep your independence, but you could also go back to work if you want or need to. They talk about how valuable it is to have lots of different skills. It's about having choices.
Right, not checking out of life, but being in charge of it. They mentioned this crossover point jitters thing. That sounds rough.
It's real. People get close to FI and they start feeling anxious. What am I going to do with all this time? Am I making the right choice? It's a huge change, so it's normal to be nervous about leaving a regular job.
Yeah, like that security blanket of a paycheck is gone, even though you've built your own. Okay, what about investing for financial independence? The book talks about different ways to do it, right?
Yeah, and they're clear that the goal isn't to get rich quick. It's about creating a steady stream of income to cover your needs for the long haul.
So not risky stuff, but more like slow and steady wins the race.
Pretty much. They mention things like bonds, revolving loan funds, mutual funds, and ETFs.
Okay.
And doing it all within retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks. They say take advantage of those company retirement plans and go for low-cost index funds. Even those minimalist folks, the minimalists and the frugal woods, they like that approach.
It seems like everyone recommends index funds.
They're good for long-term growth and they're not too risky.
Right. What about other ways to invest?
They talk about real estate. You could buy properties that make money, like duplexes, or you could invest in your own home to make it more sustainable, like solar panels or maybe even a little homestead. They give this example of Kent and Beth. They made their property into a rental and get income from that.
Nice.
They also talk about investing in green energy, like through a solar panel company. It shows you can make money and support things you believe in.
So find what fits your comfort level and your FI goals and focus on the long game, not quick wins.
Exactly. And they wrap it all up by saying, this is just a starting point.
Right.
It's about getting you to think about your own relationship with money and work and to go explore these ideas more on your own.
So what's the takeaway? What are the big lessons from your money or your life?
It comes down to this. Money is your life energy.
Yeah.
You have a limited amount of it. Choose how you spend it wisely on things that matter to you.
Right.
And remember, financial independence, it's not a dream. It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
It gives you the power to live on your terms, not just working and spending all the time.
Absolutely. It's about getting your time back, your most valuable asset.
It is.
So to everyone listening, here's something to think about. What's one small thing you can do today to start looking at your own life energy and how it lines up with what you care about?
Yeah.
Maybe track your spending for a week or sit down and think about your values. It's about taking that first step towards a life that's more intentional, more meaningful.
It's a great first step. When you start asking yourself these questions, you start building a life that's less about just buying stuff and more about what really makes you happy and gives you purpose. We hope we'll keep digging into these ideas and see where they take you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more.
See you then.